How do you know when it's time to quit? Quit your art, quit the tiring relentlessness of showing up, sharing, to no avail, to feeling invisible. When do you know if it's time to quit that workshop that you created, that it's just not working, it's just not going anywhere? That's what I'm going to talk about in today's episode, because I'm sure so many of us have had the feeling at some point where you're wondering, is the juice worth the squeeze? I love that phrase. Is the juice worth the squeeze? I have had these thoughts so often throughout the whole of my life. And here's how I handle this question. I think there's different scenarios here too. Whatever it is that I'm facing, that I'm thinking about quitting, or I'm questioning whether I should quit it, there are questions to ask, such as, is the juice worth the squeeze? So like, is the effort I'm putting into this worth the output? Quite often it's a no, because that's probably why you're questioning it in the first place. So is the effort I'm putting into this worth the output? Now, an example of this was when I set up United Art Space 10 years ago. Let's go beyond that. Before that, back in 2012, I set up United Art Space as a physical studio space. And it just did not work. It cost me so much money. I was working really hard. It demanded a lot of my physical time. I had to be at the studio. It was relentless. And then in the end, the landlord wanted to put the rent up significantly. It was like such a ridiculous amount of money that would put me under huge financial pressure. And based on our business, we would not have covered the cost by any stretch of the imagination. So for me, the juice was not worth the squeeze on that one. You know, adding up the stress, the monetary implications over my head, the how hard I'd already worked, and it didn't feel like it was going to hit that. I would not have made any money. So it just felt like, why would I? It was a full-time job. And then I fell pregnant. They're like, definitely no, juice is definitely not worth the squeeze on that one. That was a quick one to say no to, as hard as it was, and it was very upsetting to shut that down. Then a few years after that, in 2016, I set up United Art Space online. Same kind of format, in the sense of having an art studio for people to create, and that's what I was doing in person. So I set it up online. At the beginning, I didn't set it up to make money, and I didn't set it up to be a business. I set it up because I was at home feeding babies and I was lonely and I really wanted to be around artists. So I was producing these art challenges every month alongside a little bit of other work and being a parent. And then as time went on, I think it was about a year in, I really started to love the United Art Space work more than anything. And I wanted to give up the other work that I had at that point, where I was working freelance, setting up websites and platforms for people. And I really wanted to throw everything into United Art Space. I had no idea how. I didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't got a clue. But I just really wanted to do it. I knew that I wanted to do it. So I pushed forwards thinking that I might be able to recoup financially and pay myself, but it did not happen. And it took 3 or 4 years to actually earn money from United Art Space, and I poured my heart and soul into that at the beginning. So yes, there were many times during that period where I felt like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because I am working and working, I'm not getting paid for it. And the reason it became a yes for me at that point was when I started to look at it financially, the juice was not worth the squeeze. I wasn't getting paid. It wasn't sustainable. I knew that. But right in that moment, what I focused on more than ever was the work that I was doing and the impact I was having and the way I was growing and the absolute love of my job, that even though I wasn't getting paid for it, I still called it a job. And I'd never been so fulfilled as a person working in my entire life. And I finally felt like I had a purpose too. So that was worth the squeeze, you know. That then became the transference of focus. Rather than it being just on monetary, I really focused on why this matters so much to me, to other people, how much I'm getting from this personally. And then because of that, I trusted in the process of, this feels so right to be focusing on. I'm going to keep going. So that was a no-brainer for me, that one. You know, that is still now how I decide if I'm facing a question of, do I quit this? Do I quit this? The driver for that question usually is, this isn't paying me enough money. This is taking me away from my family. It's taking up so much time. I'm exhausted. It might just be, I do not like this anymore. I really don't like doing this anymore. I used to love it, or maybe I didn't love it. These are just rhetorical statements now. Maybe I found myself choosing it because I thought I could make money, and now I'm not happy. There's all these different reasons why we might be facing a situation that we think we just want to quit. Another one sometimes is, I just don't feel like I'm good enough. This is a big one, actually. It's massive. We sometimes get to that point where it's the levels of learning. So we go into something feeling enthused and passionate. I love art. It's amazing. Or I love running these workshops. Or I love, you know, for me recently, it's been about being invited in to run a seminar on speaking with confidence. And at first I was like, yeah, I've been speaking for 10 years. I'm amazing at this. I've done 3,000 videos. I can speak with my eyes closed. And then when I've started to train, and so at that point, I'm unconscious incompetent is the levels of learning. I can't remember who came up with the levels of learning. And then as I'm in the arena and I'm like sitting in on this training, they're starting to come out with terminology I don't understand. They're referencing things I don't understand. The speakers who already deliver this stand up, and they are world-class speakers. So by default, what happens then is we go into this phase of conscious incompetence. The conscious incompetence is when we start to realize there's a skill gap. There's stuff that I need to learn here. I'm out of my depth. I don't know what I'm doing. And this can come from anything that we're learning, whether it's to be an artist. We've suddenly found our art, we're excited, we feel like, yeah, so-and-so's got their art out there and they're doing it, so I should be able to do it. And then when you start putting it out there, you realize there's things to learn. It's tougher than you realized. And this starts to bring this feeling of incompetence, and it starts to then question, do I quit? And most people quit at that point, in fact, of the conscious incompetence. That's when people quit. They stop because they just think they're not good enough, or it's too much time. I can't do this. And I had that question recently. Should I quit? Should I quit? Shall I run out now? I don't need to do this. I don't need to do it. Shall I get out? And then I realized, actually, I'd be doing that because I'm scared, because it started to feel difficult. I know I can do this. I know I can. So I'm putting that next foot in front of the other and not thinking too big of the big picture. So first of all, is deciphering and asking some questions of why we want to quit. So sometimes I'm questioning, is it because I'm scared? Is it because I'm at the conscious incompetence stage? That was for that scenario. Some of the others, recently, there's been a few things that I have done historically, events online, they just don't work anymore. And I've had to look and ask myself, do I quit? Do I quit doing these events? And then I ask why. Why do I want to quit doing the event? Now, if it is going back to the thing that it's not working, I've done it, it's just not working. So do I quit? If it's something that we're trying and it's not working, then I ask myself, okay, rather than quit, can I do this differently? Which bits of this do I not enjoy? So these are some of the questions that I'm asking myself. Because sometimes it might be, I don't need to quit it, I just need to do it differently. It's not working now because of this, so why don't I change it into this? This is what I'm doing right now. I'm changing my big 2-week longs into a 1 hour masterclass. I'm now looking at things that didn't work and asking, how can I do this differently? I'm asking myself, if I want to do this and show up and love it because I don't love it anymore, what does that look like? How could I carry on doing this in a way that I love and enjoy it? And that last one, how can I continue doing this in a way that I love it and enjoy it, came from me wondering whether I should quit social media. So I was questioning, should I quit social media? I love and hate social media. Love-hate relationship. And in the end, I realized it's not about whether I need to quit it. It's not a yes or a no. It doesn't have to be a yes or a no. It can simply be, if I carry on using social media, how do I use it so that I love it and enjoy it? If I carry on in my business with United Art Space, how do I carry on in a way that I absolutely love it and enjoy it, and take the pressure off it having to be a business that has to pay all these things? Like, these are the questions I'm asking myself right now. And it's brilliant because it's taken me back to the things that I want to do and get back to that I absolutely love. And I can guarantee them when I start doing that, things will like pick up. And I mean pick up in the sense of me feeling fulfilled, because that's what matters day in, day out. Sometimes it is, let's put it on the shelf. So rather than quit, what I like to do is put something on the shelf. So over time, this has been things that I teach, workshops that I run in person, the art studio that I closed down, certain courses. I remember us teaching Make Your Mark, and we decided to stop doing that. Rather than saying we're quitting it and we're just going to stop doing it, Sharon and I, when we decided to stop doing Make Your Mark together, we said, should we just put it on the shelf? Let's just pop it on the shelf for now. And by putting it on the shelf, it means it's sitting there and we can go back to it if we want to go back to it. And with the studio, that was a case of letting that go. I let that go in that moment. However, I did actually inadvertently put it on the shelf, because I'm now going back to that very same studio where I had my first ever in-person workshops for creatives. I'm going back there to redo them, to start them up again. So exciting. And so it's interesting how sometimes we can let something go in the moment and it just wasn't the right time for me, and now it is the right time. And I'm a big believer that if you let something go, if it's meant for you, it's going to find you again when the time is right. So just remember that it's not about quitting sometimes. It's not about being not good enough, like, oh, I wasn't good enough to do that, I've let it go. It's no, you're letting it go to give yourself some space, or it just doesn't feel right now, or it's too much pressure. You need to just put it on the shelf for a little while. And when the time's right, it will find you again. And if it is something that's scaring you, it's breaking it down into the tiniest little steps. So the Confident Club work is scaring me. It's petrifying me. I know in my heart I want to do it though. And I know that in my heart, if I said no, it's because I'm scared. So for me, I'm just breaking it down. Tiny, tiny little steps, learning the next few bits, building myself up. I'm visualizing myself doing it every single day. I'm visualizing myself delivering them. And I know that with practice, and if I keep putting myself in that room, in a year's time, I'll just know it inside out. So if that question is on your mind, should I quit? One last final thought. If it's about your art, or you know somebody who's thinking of quitting their art, and the reason is because there's too many people out there doing it already, I'm not good enough compared to everybody else, I've tried and it's just like getting on my nerves and I don't want to do this anymore. A question back to that person might be, what is it in your art that you absolutely love? And how can you bring that joy back to it and focus on that instead? And make it about you and not about other people. And I find then, especially with my own art, when I do that, I go back to the joy of it, of the purpose of it, of the point of it is because it's my art, it's my voice, it's my process, it's part of my identity of how I translate things into things and my feelings. There's a place for that. And then the juice is worth the squeeze. Have a wonderful week. Take care. Bye.